After the time-based concepts of the assessment year, the previous year, the principle of taxation, that income of the previous year is assessed to tax in the immediately following assessment year, which is the relevant previous year, which is the relevant assessment year, and the exceptions to the principle and why they are exceptions. We move on to the next definition, which is the definition of the term person, another term which is used very, very often across the Act. Person. A very intelligent attempt to bring down all the taxable entities into one word. The term person is exhaustive. It's a huge definition. Section 231 of the Income Tax Act defines the term person, which is going to be our taxable entity. When I refer to the term person, which is a very generalized term, it includes all the entities, all the forms in which an economic activity can be carried on. Right from the basic of the natural person, the individual, a human being, a Homo sapien. Starting with that and going on to the biggest form, which is the body corporate or the company. It's a huge term. It is exhaustive. It is an inclusive definition. The definition of the term person starts with the words, the term person means and includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. What is important is not the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but the full stop after 7 or 8. Which means that we make an attempt to identify, to list out or enlist all the entities which could engage in an economic revenue earning activity and put them in the definition so that nothing escapes. There are sole proprietors, there are cooperative societies, there are companies, there are LLPs, partnership firms. There are so many of these entities which could directly or indirectly engage in an economic revenue earning activity subject to income tax in India. In the absence of the definition of such a term, I may have to keep repeating the different forms of business organization. Every individual, partnership firm, HUF, company, society shall file a return of income. Every individual, HUF, partnership, etc. shall deduct tax at source. Every individual, partnership firm, etc. shall pay advance tax. Now, to avoid that, there is one term, person, and that will include all forms of business organization, all forms of revenue earning activity organizations. Of course, I'm not expecting you to mug it up or by heart what I'm going to list out here. For me, it comes automatically. For you, it need not. But then, when I bring up an ingredient, when I bring up an organization, you must at least be able to make out whether it is in the list or out of the list. Because if it is in the list, it is a person subject to the income tax radar. If it is out of the list, it is not considered, and that entity or organization need not worry about the Income Tax Act. So to be taxable under the Income Tax Act, to be subject to any kind of a proceeding under the Income Tax Act, you have to be a person first. The term person, as I said, means and includes. Number one, the simplest form, the individual. An individual is included in the definition of the term person. 2. A Hindu undivided family, what we call the HUF, or the joint Hindu family. A family of Hindus staying undivided under a common roof and maybe carrying on a family business or a family activity. Hindu undivided family. Number 3 is a company that itself, of course, has about 5-6 subcomponents under it. What is a company? What is an Indian company? What is a domestic company? What is a foreign company? There are further classifications under company which we will come to under company assessments or company taxation, corporate taxation. So the third element in the definition of the term person as given by section 231 is company. The next is a partnership firm, including a limited liability partnership established under the Limited Liability Partnership Act of 2008, LLP Act. An LLP is a hybrid between a company and a partnership firm. So for all practical purposes, under section 231 of the Income Tax Act, LLP is included within partnership firm, which is included in the definition of the term person. 4 items covered. The next is number 5, association of persons, which we call an AOP. Any form by which a joint venture or a firm or a business is undertaken by a combination of all these persons. That is called an association of persons. The next is a body of individuals, BOI. So this is an association of persons, and this is a body of individuals. Look at the difference between the two. Association of persons, body of individuals. This is set up normally for a statutory purpose, like an inquiry commission, a 3-judge bench of a high court, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court, are statutory forms established for a definite period of time for a definite purpose, comprising professional individuals. That is a body of individuals. The next is any local authority. Corporations, municipalities, cantonment boards, district councils, all local authorities which are established under a local act, a state act, to carry out a particular service, public service, and earning a revenue out of contributions of the users of that service. That is a local authority. And lastly, the most interesting is the artificial juridical person, also shortened as AJP. An artificial juridical person. Artificial persons who symbolize something, who are established or set up for religious purposes, places of worship. Income tax doesn't have sentiments. No emotions here, please. When I go to a temple as an income tax officer and see that there is quite an income revenue there, by way of contributions in money, in jewelry, in what do you call it, food grains. A temple gets a lot of contributions from God-fearing, faithful devotees. Padmanabha Swami temple, Tirupati temple, Makkah, Medina. They are pretty rich. People have a lot of faith in them. People contribute left, right and center blindly. There are people who contribute lakhs, crores to the TTD, the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanams, one of the chief prominent popular temples across India. Tirupati is an artificial juridical person. When I go to the temple and tell them you have quite a bit of revenue, this is income, taxable under the Income Tax Act, the priest would say this is God's money. Well, then I would say let God pay income tax. But since God cannot come down to pay income tax, somebody has to represent him. So the artificial juridical person is also covered or included in the definition of the term person. So there are 8 entities. What is not important is the order of the list. What is not important is the knowledge of each of these components in that list in that order. What is important is the full stop here. Which means that there are only 8 entities identified by section 231 to constitute into a person under the Income Tax Act. In short, to be a person, it has to be one among these 8 only. I don't have a 9th residuary waste paper basket saying any other entity. Then there would have been no meaning of listing out these 8 components. So these 8, and more importantly, only these 8 are persons subject to income tax proceedings, subject to tax liabilities. I repeat, individual, HUF, company, partnership firm, AOP, BOI, local authority, artificial juridical person. If you look at them carefully, we have started from the grassroots level. An individual is a natural person, a human being. It includes the male and the female. It includes a minor. It includes an insolvent. It includes an individual who is lacking the mental ability to understand things, a person who is a lunatic, of unsound mind. All of them are included. After some time, I might get into the habit of using the word he to represent a person or a taxpayer. That doesn't mean that the ladies are excluded. He is a common noun. He shall pay tax, he shall file a return, he shall deduct tax at source. It's either he or it. But that he covers the sheet. So an individual is pretty comprehensive, both are included, minors are, those not capacious to contract are included. So I start from the grassroots level, the basic elementary cell of the individual, and then move up in size, in dimension, in imagination, and cover even the gods, the temple deities, idols, who personify a religious faith. So all of these are persons. Any of them engaged in an economic revenue earning activity would be subject to income tax at the applicable rates, subject to the provisions of the Act. If you look at them carefully, I can draw a line here. This is the cellular level, the microcosm, individual, one individual. All the others are groups of individuals, big or small, registered or not, organized or not. A partnership firm, for example, is a group of about 5 to 6 partners. An HUF might have 20 elements, 20 individuals staying under a common roof. A company is a huge organization of directors, shareholders, various stakeholders, being individuals. So when individuals group together to carry on a business activity, to carry on an economic activity, to reap the benefits of economies of scale, the other forms of persons arise. So that definition is something which builds up in size, in organization, in statutory registration after the individual is laid out. An individual is a single human being. An HUF is a family of Hindus staying undivided. Every word is important. Interesting to note that we here refer to only Hindu undivided families. There are various other cults, religions, faiths, which also stay as undivided families, but they are not recognized under the Income Tax Act. We may have Jain undivided families, Christian undivided families, Muslim undivided families, but they will not get a benefit of being treated as a unit, as a taxable unit under this Act. Partnership firm, company which is further divided, as I said, association of persons, a group of, for example, if I have a partnership firm with one individual, one company, one partnership firm, one HUF, that would become an association of persons. That is why it is called an association of persons. Persons means persons under the Income Tax Act. A body of individuals is a limited statutory edition of a partnership firm. It will be carrying out a statutory purpose or an activity for a limited period of time as laid down by the statute under which it is created. The local authority is the local statutory authorities collecting taxes from people, laying down rules and regulations, assessing different properties. That is a local authority. And then as a residuary head, if there is some kind of an entity that a person can create not falling in the other categories, that would become an artificial juridical person. And the most important, the ninth, as I said, the full stop. That full stop conveys a lot of meaning, stating that these and only these are persons under the Income Tax Act. Now you will see that the definition is pretty exhaustive, and there is no method of finding a loophole here. Can you set up an organization? Can you set up a business, an economic activity? Formulating it, creating it as an entity not covered by any of these. Impossible. So it's a very intelligently laid out definition under section 231, which is the next. I will be using the term hereafter. I will take the liberty of using the word person very often. And when I use the word person, you will imagine the entire rainbow, starting from the individual up to the AJP. My rainbow has 8 banks. So it is the individual. You will see that each of them is relevant for different provisions of the Income Tax Act. For example, there are some provisions which are company specific, some which are firm specific, some which are society specific. And therefore, until a person specific provision is made or encountered, you should be able to imagine all these persons whenever I use the word person hereafter. So with that definition of the term person, we'll wind up with this session and continue in our next.